Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to another Two Birds and a Third football podcast weekly review. It's Hank here. I'm joined with Josh and DJ. Ricky's not in right now. How's it going, guys?
Well, man. Life feeling better than DJ. I know that he's
Not doing as well?
over here loving life, man. Ready to talk about football.
There's nothing that Mucinex can't kill, okay? 2 shots of that will take it down nice and slow, and I'm feeling great now. Who knows what's going to happen after the show, but right now I'm feeling good.
DJ's going to party hard in his neighborhood. All right, so at this point in time, right, I think I messed this up a little bit.
Playback going on.
I know. Sorry about that.
Look, the technical difficulty there.
That was pretty funny, though. It was a good first attempt, guys.
Or is that on Josh's end, or is that on one of your guys' end? Oh, it is on. It is
open while we do it.
Yeah, my bad. All right, so I guess I don't know what's going on here. I think we're having a bit of technical difficulties with this. Oh, my bad. I know what's going on. All right, so sorry about that. So we are going. It was feedback from what I was playing on before. So anyway, with those technical difficulties out of the way, we are going to. I mean, it wouldn't be a Two Birds and a Third football podcast if there weren't any difficulties. So what we're gonna do today is we're going to talk about our teams. DJ's Browns, Josh's Ravens. We're going to be briefly discussing what happened with the Cowboys, as well as the Eagles. We are going to talk about head coaches on the hot seat, whether or not they should or should not be fired, whether Tom Brady is losing it, and are the Rams and Saints legit, or did they just peak at the wrong time? We could probably talk about the Kansas City Chiefs as well. We're going to be playing a little game of Around the DJ, which is our sort of version of Around the Horn. DJ plays Tony Reale, except he's less Italian. We're going to be talking.
Actually, I am Italian.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I thought you were. I thought you were Irish. I thought you were Irish.
Italian.
A little bit. You're about as Italian as I am Asian.
He's
Hawaiian.
He's about as he's about as Italian as I am African. Anyway, and then we'll talk about fantasy, and then we'll go over the picks. So we'll start off with DJ and his Browns. Give us a short rundown of what happened in that game. DJ, you got to be pretty excited about Baker Mayfield. I mean, how many franchise quarterbacks in your lifetime have the Browns ever had? And you could possibly have one of them right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty ecstatic about this season. I know playoffs with this team, but I just don't care right now about the playoffs. I'm just ecstatic for what the future holds. But a quick recap on what the Browns did. That's something they haven't done since 1990, and that's win in Denver. Yeah, we're predating the actual comeback of the franchise in 1999. It wasn't a big scoring game. It wasn't, a flashy game by Baker by any means, but it was a win, and it was a 1-point win, actually. And that hasn't been done for the Browns team, I think, since before Bernie Kosar. Yeah, 1982. So, I mean, we're doing a lot of things that the Browns haven't done in years, and that's what's happening this year, and that's all I care about. That means there's a important shift in Browns fanitude or Browns team-wise. They are now on a winning trend, and that, I think, is going to be not only Baker Mayfield's success story, but also Greg Williams when he's hired as the not the interim head coach, but the actual head coach. Year. That's how I feel. Mayfield had a 2-yard touchdown toss to Antonio Callaway. Callaway's doing great. I think our receiving core is fantastic right now with Higgins coming back. It's showing. Our defense is playing lights out. Another top 10 defense for this year, which is going to be great for upcoming years. We have 2 Pro Bowl selections, one from Myles Garrett. So, again, doing stuff that the Browns haven't done in quite some time. I know that we have a pretty important 2 games coming up. One against the Bengals, who we outed already. So hopefully we can win that game. And then we're going to have another game against the Ravens. And this is going to be in Baltimore, and I think is going to have playoff not complications, but playoff situation.
And of course,
implications.
Of course, if you're just listening and you're a football novice, the Browns will need the Colts and the Titans to not win another game, as well as the Dolphins. The Titans and the Colts both play each other. They also need to beat the Ravens and have the Ravens, I guess, not have the Ravens win another game. The Titans and the Colts play each other in the last game of the season, so the Browns, if all that stuff happens, the Browns have won out, the Browns would need both of those teams to tie. That is how improbable it is in this situation. But, at the NFL is where the improbable happens, and we get to watch it.
I just think that, even if we don't make the playoffs, which is not a very big if, I still think this has to be one of the best turnarounds from an 0-16 year ever, since there's only been 2. So,
yeah, it would be, because I think the Lions ended with 3 or 4 wins. I don't think they won very many games in 2009, so it would be, yeah. All right, so Josh's Ravens played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Jameis Winston I'm gonna eat the W's. Winston was a close game.
The Ravens stole the W from him like it was lunch money, and he was stuck eating L's, taking the loss, because the Ravens are playing Ravens football, and what they're doing is they're running the ball and controlling the clock. And I think winning us games. Now, once again, it's not that I don't like Lamar Jackson. The team's made it apparent that they're going to be moving on from Joe Flacco, whether that's through trade or releasing him or however they want to do it. But we're going to be moving on. So Lamar's the guy. And if you control the clock and do this, then you can win. But the thing that scares me the most is if we're down by 14 points, I can't see Lamar Jackson bringing us back by throwing the ball.
You seem tentative, Josh. You seem tentative, about this, them moving on from Flacco. Is that the reason why?
Well, it's a comfort thing.
Lamar Jackson's a rookie, and he started 5 games. All 5 of those games have been against subpar defenses. He hasn't gone against an elite defense or a fast defense. And honestly, his legs make a lot of plays, but if you watch his tape and watch him drop back to throw and how he throws, he's wildly inaccurate anything more than 7 yards down the field. I mean, if you watch the game on Sunday, the announcer, I can't remember who was calling the game, was like, that was the best throw that Lamar's made so far, and it was just a simple slant route.
Well, it's the comfort level. You have Joe Flacco. You've had Joe Flacco for 11 years. It's hard to move on from a guy who has won you a Super Bowl and had the improbable Super Bowl run that he had. I mean, it's why coaches and GMs get fired over benching Eli Manning. It's that comfort level, that comfort factor.
It's that. I mean, it's also that huge contract that they gave him after the Super Bowl as well, which makes it hard to leave as well. Yeah. But Josh, I see this little headline. I was actually watching Lamar's tape here before we jumped on here, and it is atrocious. I mean, at certain points, it's almost a submarine pitch when he's throwing the ball, and he should have had a few more picks that game against the Buccaneers, as they dropped a few, as I saw too. So I understand why you're very tentative of moving on from a pocket.
I mean, DJ, he's the best quarterback they've ever had, which isn't saying much because they haven't been around for very long. But it's hard. It's hard for. I mean, people own his jersey. He's been around for a long time. So I mean, it's true that Lamar Jackson was not very good, and I'll let you finish your point. But in a way, you got to usher in the new era.
I get it. So, Josh, here's a little little headline here. He's electric and erratic. I think that's a perfect way to put Lamar Jackson. What do you think?
I think absolutely. He's gonna. Here's the thing. People are like, he wins us games with his legs. The running game is what's winning us games. And moving and keeping the ball to control the clock is winning the games. Yes, Lamar makes some moves, but with how bad his throwing is, I will say this. I don't know if Lamar is winning games. I think our game plan is winning games. He hasn't made necessarily that, spectacular touchdown bullet that we need when, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but what scares me is that if we ever need to stretch the field by throwing, he can't do it. He's just not accurate enough. Hopefully that changes, but it's one of those things that people say, like, can you really teach accuracy? And he's not as big as Cam Newton, so if he's going to be as inaccurate as Cam Newton is, I just don't see how he's going to last trying to run as much as he does. You see him get up slow. I mean, even in the last few games, you've seen him get up slow. He got hurt at the end of the Chiefs game. It just don't – I know he's the future, but if he's going to be the future, what I want to see from Lamar, I love that he wins games. I love that he plays with passion. I need to see him develop not just a little bit, but leaps and bounds as a passer. Otherwise, he's going to go the way of the Colin Kaepernicks, the RG3s, and he's just going to disappear because he's only going to be able to run. And when a team stops him from running, we're going to lose. If he can't run the ball and they can contain him with a spy, a safety, or a linebacker spying him that doesn't let him get out and make plays, we're going to lose because he can't throw the ball. And that's the only thing that scares me.
I think this will be the last point we make about this. I think that the Ravens have done a good job of not giving him any, making him play his style of football, not forcing him to do anything that he currently cannot do, because sometimes in certain situations, coaches put too much on the quarterback and they lose confidence because they're not able to kind of react or develop. But we'll quickly talk about Ricky's Dallas Cowboys. It was not a good game for the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm not going to come out and say that the Dallas Cowboys were exposed. I think that the Indianapolis Colts just have a very underrated defense. And there were a few situations in which Jason Garrett made some very poor calls. One of which was going for it on a fourth down play deep in Indianapolis territory when they could have kicked a field goal. Ezekiel Elliott either fumbled the ball or he either fumbled the ball or it was just a turnover on downs. Dak Prescott didn't look sharp. Their defense didn't really look sharp. Andrew Luck carved them up in ways that really only Andrew Luck can do so. What do you guys think is... I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are 1.5 games out of first place in front of the Philadelphia Eagles. They needed to win. Now the 7-7 Eagles and Redskins are biting at the heels of the Dallas Cowboys, and they need to win to get in. So what do you guys think about that?
I think we discussed this last week. Remind me if I'm wrong, but we said, how can the Cowboys screw this division title up? Well, this is one way to start doing that. You don't score a single point. I know that we're saying that the Indianapolis Colts are underrated, but you just came off of beating the Saints. And I think last week they scored a pretty decent amount of points, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, against the Eagles.
And you come up against, kind of a must-win game. Again, Indianapolis you can't shake your stick at that. But, Marlon Mack tore them apart. They're supposed to have one of those better defenses, and I think, again, this is one of those things where the offense couldn't stay on the field, which made the defense pretty inept or just tired in that sense. But
Dak didn't have a very good game at all.
Yeah.
So inconsistency, I think, is what this Cowboys team is. I think they had that 5-game win streak. A couple things had to go their way and bounce their way, but
And I think we discussed it too. I mean, when you're a young team like the Dallas Cowboys are, which they are a relatively young team, when you have a situation where you win such a emotional game against the Philadelphia Eagles, where on that last drive, everything went their way, especially a tip pass that went into the hands of Amari Cooper for a touchdown. When that stuff happens, you start to kind of believe that you're the best and that you can't be beaten, and you don't have any of that anxiety that you have, that you usually have when you're a team. I mean, there are people who, in many senses, there are anxiety counselors for athletes who try to make it so that they have the right amount of anxiety going into games. And I think in this sense, they just thought that they were the best team in the league and they just got smoked, I'm not even sure if this is the real Dallas Cowboys or not, but all of our teams have probably gone through something like that, where they've gone in thinking, oh, we're going to stomp everyone out, but they didn't, And
Hank, I agree that it's the parody of the NFL. You think a team's unbeatable, and then they get beat. But it happens every single year, literally every single year. It happens even to the Patriots team, where in 2008, when everyone thought that they weren't going to get beat by anybody. Yeah. And the Giants beat them after they had a perfect season, and Tom Brady threw for 50 touchdowns, and Randy Moss caught 25 of them. Yeah. Everyone thought that there's no way you're going to stop this team with this offense and that defense. They got beat. And
keep going.
And before we move on, I was just going to mention that it's like we see it this year in the NFL too. People were saying, oh, it doesn't matter if the Chiefs' defense is horrible because Patrick Mahomes is just going to win them games. Well, look at what happens when somebody can stop Patrick Mahomes a little bit and their defense is that horrible. They don't look unbeatable by any means. The Ravens almost beat them with Lamar Jackson in there, and the only reason that the Ravens did lose was because Lamar Jackson basically fumbled the ball and gave it back to the Chiefs to let them stay in that game. Yeah, so,
and we'll definitely talk about that later on in the podcast. But the best team in the league could lose to the worst team in the league just like that. It's that simple. That's the league we have in the NFL. Just shortly for the my Eagles. I think that was one of the craziest games I'd ever seen. The Eagles defense made Jared Goff look like Sam Bradford. Made Jared Goff look like Tim Tebow. Made Jared Goff look like Johnny Manziel. I'm not saying that's the real Jared Goff or not, but I think that I think that in many senses, I think it was a situation where the Rams thought that they were going to steamroll the Eagles. They were going into the announcers and the analysts were going into this game thinking that Sean McVay was like the greatest coach ever. I mean, they were talking about him like they were talking about the Queen of England. I'm still going to say that Sean McVay is still a really great coach. I mean, he can remember what I ate for breakfast this morning, even if I don't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning. But I think in many senses, you sometimes get these steam bumps, and we're definitely going to again talk about the Rams and whether they're for real or not. But Doug Peterson did for Nick Foles what I've wanted him to do for Carson Wentz all season. They ran the ball. I think 27 times in the whole game, which is something that Carson Wentz really hasn't gotten a lot of. And it might have ended up getting him injured by throwing so many times. And I feel like gypped as a fan because we've been telling Doug Peterson, you got to run the football. You got to establish an even game, or your injury. Your quarterback who's coming off of an injury is going to get re-injured. You shouldn't have brought him back when it wasn't 100%, and of course, if you go on Twitter, there's just a civil war on Twitter where I'm thinking to myself, I support both quarterbacks. I support any quarterback that comes onto the field. I support it if it's Carson Wentz. I support him if it's Nick Foles, if he's Nate Sudfeld. Maybe 5 years ago I would have gotten involved in something like this, but right now I'm too old. Like I'm too grown up for the BS. You know.
What about Nathan Peterman? Would you get behind him?
I'd try. I wouldn't want him to play. Like, if he was like the third quarterback and all my other quarterbacks got injured, I'd be like, well, I need a quarterback, right? Like, or I might.
Eagles, real quick, man.
Yeah.
I just want to say, we talked last week. We made these bold, hot takes over the Rams and Eagles game. I just knew, for some reason, Nick Foles was going to come through for you. I don't know how. There's this thing in football where when it's an oncoming train that you can't stop. And I think that train is Nick Foles in December, in January. There's certain players that plays very well in certain times of the year.
Yeah.
I think Nick Foles is benefiting from people not being able to game plan him since the preseason this year or the Super Bowl from last year or the playoffs
preseason.
So,
no. Week two.
Week 2.
Yeah.
But still, basically that's enough time for maybe him to do something a little bit different than he's doing
but
in Week 2.
But I also think that Doug Peterson simplifies the playbook for Nick Foles, but he doesn't simplify the playbook for Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz is coming off a pretty major injury, and he got another injury. So it's just one of those things where, you know, I'm angry about it, but at the same time, there's nothing I can do. They're flirting with the idea of Carson Wentz playing again this season. I don't want Carson Wentz anywhere close to the active list. I want him to sit on the bench. Right now, it's Nick Foles' time to shine. I don't care about if Carson's people think that Nick Foles will replace Carson Wentz. Well, if that happens, so be it. But I don't like this creation of a quarterback controversy because it's so Eagles to have a quarterback controversy like this at this point in the season. But I guess we are going to move on to the topics we're going to talk about. Like you can see on our thumbnail, we've got a few head coaches that may or may not be on the hot seat. Josh, tell me the one coach you think is on the hot seat / should be fired by season's end that hasn't already been fired. There have been 2 head coaches that have been fired thus far.
I would have to say, well, Mike McCarthy, you guys know Mike McCarthy's been on my hot seat for a couple of years, but he got fired already. I would have to go with Vance Joseph. I think he is definitely on the hot seat because his team looked good, but now they don't look good at all. And I think I would have to go with either Vance Joseph or the Cardinals head coach. Was it Wilkes?
Yeah, Wilkes.
One of those two. I think those two are on the biggest hot seat.
I think that on a personal level, I think that Vance Joseph is definitely a shoo-in to be fired. I mean, it is his second season, and the Broncos have definitely declined under his tenure. But I don't think Wilkes is going to be fired. I mean, that's if you believe that you should fire a head coach after their first season. I'm not a big fan of firing a head coach after their first season, even if they've been bad. I just don't really. I don't agree. I don't know about what's your reasoning for Wilkes getting fired besides them having a bad season.
Because they're bad in almost every facet, and I think that completely is coaching. When you have a high draft pick, when you have a running back who has a ton of talent, and you have a defense that's talented, but you're as bad as you are, and it's the inconsistency on so many levels. I mean, it's not like you have some teams where it's like, okay, well, they're not playing well, but they can rest their hat on having a pretty good defense, you know,
yeah.
Or like, well, they can rest their hat on being able to, you know, score, just their defense lets games down. But the Cardinals, they just suck at everything. So, and that comes down to coaching. And you already fired your offensive coordinator this season. and you haven't gotten any better on offense. So
I think they have. I mean, they definitely won games.
They have. Nothing,
it's better than 0-4, 0-5 with Mike. I think in many ways Mike McCoy was not a good decision. I think we all kind of called that. Mike McCoy kind of sucks. Been bad with every team he's been under besides when Peyton Manning was his quarterback. And if they don't, I don't. Do you think they fire everybody, every single person?
I don't know, Hank. It's just one of those things where the Cardinals need so much right now in terms of. I mean, and it's crazy to say that because they have players like Chandler Jones and Patrick Peterson, David Johnson. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald. You can just keep naming players that have all the talent in the world on their teams. But none of it really looks good. I mean, really none of it looks good. Their running game doesn't look good. Their passing game doesn't look good. Their receivers don't look good. Their defense gets exposed constantly. So, you might have to just... I mean, you're definitely going to have... I would get at least new offensive and defensive coordinators if you're not going to fire the head coach. Then you need to find... On either side of the ball, offense or defense, you need to figure something out. And you need to come up with an identity because right now, to me, the Cardinals have zero identity.
And before we move on to DJ, I think one of the biggest issues with the Cardinals was the fact that they didn't have a good offseason in terms of they planned on starting Sam Bradford at quarterback. That didn't work. They planned on having Mike McCoy be their offensive coordinator. That definitely didn't work. But DJ, who is on the hot seat / should be fired by the end of the season and why?
Well, I have a two-part to this one. One that was on the hot seat that is no longer on the hot seat was John Harbaugh. I'd have to say John Harbaugh has cooled his hot seat very much so. But I think right now the two coaches that I know will be fired by the end of the season will be Todd Bowles. Would be one of them. Todd Bowles has lost 17 of his past 22 games and will miss the playoff for a fourth straight season. And he has a quarterback now. He's a defensive guy. He's got a quarterback now that's going to need some good, a good offensive coordinator at least. And he hasn't been able to produce that for him this year. I know that starting a rookie quarterback doesn't always mean you're going to be really good. So, but he's done this. He's been pretty bad for the past 3 seasons. So I expect him to lose his job at the end of the season, and they're going to find somebody an offensive mind to help their boy get to where he needs to be, Sam Darnold. The other coach I think is going to lose their job by the end of the year is Dirk Cutter. He's 18-25 over the past 3 seasons. He's been under 500, I think, in every season except for one at the end of it. He keeps flip-flopping between Jameis Winston and the Freak. I'm sorry, what was his name again?
Fitzmagic.
Yeah, Fitzmagic.
Fitzpick-trick. Or what we would call at Tommy's, we would call him Fitzpick-trick.
Well, he flip-flopped from that. He goes back to Fitzmagic to Fitztragic to Fitzpick-trick to Fitzpicnic. He's going to be having a picnic on the sideline sometime because he's not consistent.
Yeah.
So those are my two guys. I don't know what you guys think, but I think those are the two coaches most likely to get canned. Obviously, there's going to be more. Yeah. I hope Marvin Lewis gets cut. I really do.
Marvin Lewis. No, what Marvin Lewis is gonna do is, he's gonna be like, He's gonna
win the last game of the season against the Steelers, so they keep him.
He's gonna say he's gonna retire, and then when he wins the last 2 games of the season with Jeff Driscoll, he'll be like, "Oh, just like I'm coming back." He's like, what Marvin Lewis is. Marvin Lewis is like herpes. He always comes back.
I just think that I want to see Hugh Jackson coach Cincinnati so we can whoop on him every single week, like years to come.
On a personal level, I think those were all good selections. I don't think that many head coaches will get fired. I think maybe you'll see 3 or 4. I think the only one that I object to is Steve Wilkes. I think you got to give him another year, or else the Arizona Cardinals, in certain senses, turn into the Cleveland Browns, where they're firing. They get 3 head coaches over the span of 4 years, and you don't want that. Or the old Cleveland, the Factory of Sadness Cleveland Browns, not the post Factory of Sadness Cleveland Browns. All right.
Nobody got time for that.
No one got time for that. No one's got time for a screaming dog pound of upset fans. All right, so we're going to change gears onto Tom Brady, the GOAT. The real question in a lot of people's minds is Tom Brady. He has 5 Super Bowl rings. I think he's been to 8 Super Bowl appearances. He is the best quarterback of our generation, better than Peyton Manning, better than Drew Brees, better than Aaron Rodgers, but that's debatable. Tom Brady I think he's scored 8 passing touchdowns in 7 games. He's coming off of 2 straight losses, which he's had two straight losses this season against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, Ben Roethlisberger got that ugly monkey off his back named Tom Brady. And finally beat him. But the question is Tom Brady losing it? Is he losing his libido? Is he losing his life force, his essence? What the French call, I don't know what. Is he losing that?
Nice job.
Is he losing that?
Nice job.
Is he losing that? Is he losing his essence?
He's losing his mojo a little bit. What do you think, Josh?
Wow, very insightful, DJ.
Good chat.
He's not really pushing the ball down the field like he did in years past, and I think you see that. I think because he's so intelligent that he's able to mitigate the fact that physically he can't do the things that he did 5, 7, 10 years ago. But because he's smart and he's able to read defenses, much like Peyton Manning did at the end of his career, I think what we're seeing with Tom Brady, though, is that Peyton Manning handpicked to go to a team that had a really, really good defense and supporting characters around him that made it work. And I think this is the first time you're seeing Tom Brady not just make random people look great like he has in the past years. I think you're finally seeing that without some great supporting cast around Tom Brady at this point in his career, he's not going to be a miracle man like he was back in the day. I still think he's one of the best, but I just see the physical decline. When he does try to push the ball downfield, you see that it doesn't really have the same velocity that it used to. These are things that happen when you get older. I don't think that he's not able to play football still. I don't think it's to that point where you're just like, dude, please stop. Like, you look horrible out there. But this is what happens when you get older and you can't just make random guys off the street look amazing like you used to. And this is what happens when you don't have a great supporting cast. You lose 2 games in a row. We don't hear much about Tom Brady do it.
So I agree with you on a point that I think the team is getting a little bit older. And obviously, by age standards, yes, Tom Brady is an old man. But I think that everybody is doing the same thing they always do around this time of year. I know that, in past history, the Patriots have done pretty well in December. That's why they win divisions. But they're still going to win the division this year. That's not going to change. That means they have a chance to get a first-round bye. Probably not going to happen with everything that's going on. But they still might have a chance.
Do the Patriots have 9 wins or 10 wins?
9.
So no, they are not guaranteed the division.
No.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not guaranteed yet. No, DJ, I'm not saying that they're not going to win. They're not guaranteed because the Dolphins already beat them.
I know it's not a guarantee, but they are going to win the division this year, and most likely going to finish 11-5. It's not a bad record, honestly.
No, it's not. But they need to win. But they need to win those games first.
I know that. But honestly, I think the only drawback in this offense is that Edelman's been dropping balls. Gronkowski has not been targeted, hence I lost my semifinal playoff game in fantasy because of him. And a couple other dumb decisions. But anyways, I think the Patriots have everybody right where they want them again. It's been like this for the past 3 years. They're not going to do it. Yeah, they're good, but, Tom Brady's getting old. This is all the same rhetoric we hear on and on again. I don't think it's over. I think they turn it up once the playoffs start. And, yes, I think they're going to win the division.
Yeah, I think they're going to win the division, too. I just think that the question in my mind is whether or not Brady is going to be as effective down the stretch. And you're right, he doesn't have as much talent as he would have had in the past, but he's done a lot without talent. The defense is playing pretty well.
David Tyree. I mean, he had to make one hell of a catch. Oh, that was
the Giants. Yes.
Sorry, guys.
David Tyree did not play for the Giants. I mean, for the Patriots. He played for the Giants. But I really do think that, if Patriots fans are squalling for him to retire, I think that they're in for a huge surprise because I don't think they'll ever have a quarterback who's as good as him. And he might be getting older and he might be declining, which is, innately possible, but you never know with a quarterback like Tom Brady. He's had downsides, and then when everyone talks about how he's gonna, suck and how the Patriots are gonna lose, he always turns it up. He always turns on the mojo, and he always, captivates the hearts of Patriots fans, and becomes, the boogeyman under the bed of Dolphins and Bills and Jets fans. He's the monster in their closet. So we are going to change and transition on to the final main topic that we're going to discuss before we play around the DJ. And that is, are the Rams and Saints, and if I might say Chiefs, are they legit or did they peak at the wrong time? Now, all three teams are currently, I think the Saints are 12-2, and the Rams and the Chiefs are both 11-3. The Saints and the Rams haven't had a good offensive game in 3 or 4 weeks, or a consistent offensive game, like the 30 or so points we expected from them when they played at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they just lost their running back, Hunt, right? Hunt, and they haven't really been able to pull out games. They won a close one against Baltimore. They won a close one against the Raiders, and then they lost. They lost last Thursday against the LA Chargers. DJ, do you think that these three teams peaked at the wrong time, and do you think it's going to mess them up when they go to the playoffs? Because all three teams have already clinched a playoff spot, and I think two of them have already clinched the division.
I'd have to say that the Saints haven't. The Saints peaked as in they were one of the best offenses for 10 straight weeks. But I mean, every offense like that's going to be found out eventually. I don't think they peaked at the wrong time. I think that defenses have finally figured them out, and this is the time of year that happens in December. Some defenses finally hit the switch and they figure out what these guys are doing. That's why I lost in fantasy playoffs this year. As we revert back to that again.
By the way, the Saints Panthers Monday Night Football game was the highest, or one of the highest viewed games of the year, likely because of all the players that were playing at the time for fantasy football playoff championships, and they were all extremely pissed off after the game. But go on.
Well, yeah, because there were fantasy football playoffs that were lost based on that game. So I think the Chiefs are more in trouble than anyone else. Because they lost not only Kareem Hunt, but they also lost Spencer Ware. I think he's still on injury alert. Maybe he might be questionable, but last week he was out. I think without a stout running game, you're going to be throwing the ball a lot. I know Patrick Mahomes can do a lot with his feet, and he can make a bad play into a really good play with his ability to throw across his body, across the other hash, be able to run. But again, like Josh mentioned, with Lamar Jackson, you don't want your best guy, your quarterback, running there out there all the time. So I think Andy Reid's a smart guy. I think he'll develop something to get him past. But again, guys, these are the Chiefs. You know, they are a great regular season team. But in the playoffs, they don't seem to do well. We'll see if that
Andy Reid,
but I just don't think I don't see them.
Andy Reid is a great regular season coach, but once he hits the playoffs, you know, I hope he wins a ring. But you know, with the team that with the game plans that they've been going out with the defenses they've been having, 28 points, you're thinking, hey, you know, we should win this game if we score 28 points, but it was 28-14 with like 5 minutes left to go, and then they choked it all away. Josh, what do you think?
I think, Hank, what we always say wins championships.
Defense and running game.
And defense and running game. And I think that these teams may have, quote-unquote, peaked at the right time. I think the one that's in the least amount of trouble is the Saints, because they have both a great passer, a good pass catchers, and a good running game, and their defense isn't as bad as the other team's defenses. But the Rams, I'm worried about. Jared Goff doesn't seem to play well at the end of the year. And the Chiefs, yeah, like I said earlier, Hank, people were saying it doesn't matter how bad the Chiefs' defense is. Patrick Mahomes is just going to throw for 50, get 50 points a game. Well, guess what? He's not going to do that every game. That was stupid of people to think. And it's a long NFL season, and you can't necessarily keep up with that pace. And teams are going to figure things out. It's a copycat league, and the Ravens kind of put a blueprint down for how to keep the game in control against the Chiefs. Control the clock. Run the ball. If you're not behind by 20 points, then just run it. Even if you're behind by 10, don't let the ball in their hands. Run the ball. Their defense isn't good enough to stop you, and they proved it. They proved that defense has proved that it can't stop anybody or anything. It doesn't matter if it's wide receivers, tight ends, or running backs. It can't stop anybody. So I think that you're seeing the defense start to make statements when it matters in football. This is what football is in December and January and into the Super Bowl. It's playing tough and playing good defense and being able to control the clock and run the ball, because your players are tired. Your players have had a long season. They're all beat up at this point. Everyone's dealing with injuries. And if you're a team like the Chiefs, or even I'll use the Rams as an example, and you lose a Kareem Hunt or a Cooper Kupp, look at what it does to your team when you rely on this high-octane style of play and you lose a high-octane guy for that. It's like when one thing goes wrong in a sports car, it's going to lead to a chain reaction of other things going wrong. You can't just be like, oh, that doesn't matter if we lose this one piece in the engine. Yeah, it is definitely going to matter.
Yeah. If
you don't have all the parts running well, you're not going to run like a fine-tuned machine. And that's why I always believed that defenses and running game win championships, because the Ravens are a perfect example of you don't even need to know who the running back is. Just throw people out there and let them get yards and control the clock. And then let your defense rest. And then when they need to go out, they make the stops they need to make. They bend. They don't break. They keep teams to field goals, or they force turnovers, and that's how you win. So I think we're seeing a drop-off from those top three teams. But the Saints, in my opinion, still have the best chance. Unfortunately, once again, they're going to have to go against a really, really tough defense in the NFC in those Bears if they meet in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens for those teams moving forward.
On a personal note, I'm not as worried about the Chiefs, actually. Whatever's going to happen with them is going to happen with them. I do have a lot of confidence in Mahomes, and I do have a lot of confidence in Reed. But a wrinkle that you guys are probably not really talking about with the Rams is the fact that even if they go to the playoffs, they're not going to have a home field advantage. The Philadelphia Eagles fan base took over that stadium. So if they end up playing like a team like the Cowboys, or they end up playing a team like the Bears, a team with a fan base that travels really well, it's not going to be, even the Seahawks, it's not going to be good for them because they will not have that home field advantage. Also, one thing you're not talking about with the Saints is the fact that the last 2 minutes of that game against the Panthers was, and I see Sean Payton as being one of the best play calling head coaches in the NFL, and he's well established himself. Years of being a quarterback coach, years of being an offensive coordinator and a head coach, but he almost botched that end to the game. I understand you're trying to get a touchdown, but you don't need to run anything razzle-dazzle or spectacular. You need to make sure that you run the ball, run the clock out, have your field goal kicker kick a field goal, go up by 6, because the Panthers were in a situation where the only way they scored in that game was a trick play. You know what I'm saying? And a 2-point safety with a pick 6 2-point safety. You don't need to do any of that razzle-dazzle stuff. You don't need to have your wide receiver have a chance, or anyone have a chance of fumbling the football. You need to just go up there, kick a field goal, and win the game. I guess the other thing that might be a positive for the Saints is the fact that they've just gone on a 3-game road trip with the Cowboys and the Buccaneers and the Panthers. So in a sense, you could argue, they'll go back home to the Superdome, to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, and they'll do their stuff when they get there. But let's play a little game of Around the DJ, where DJ plays Tony Reale, and he asks Josh and me questions about different topics or headlines, and whether we like buy or sell or something like that, right? Something like that, right, DJ?
Yeah. Actually, it's Around the DJ, and I am channeling my inner Tony Reality, as Hank said. Guys, last week's inaugural game of Around the DJ, Josh came in the back door. He came in and said he is going to win this inaugural game. And you guys, if you want to play that game, that's what she said. That was very much not.
I wasn't gonna go for that low-hanging fruit, DJ.
I was hoping someone did, but Josh came in and stole the show, stole the game last night with a great answer, and I'm hoping something happens like this again. So we have the current standings. First place, Josh with 1-0, and
everyone else nothing.
0-1, and Ricky 0-1. So with that being said, we're gonna start with that first question. Just recently, Coach Gruden of the Oakland Raiders got a little emotional after the win against the Steelers. He ran into the black hole and basically said he reminded him all the other wins that he had in Oakland. Guys, I want you to tell me if you buy or sell his emotions on leaving Oakland, because he has lied to the Oakland Raiders fan base in the past. So is this another lie? Let's start with you, Josh.
Wait, repeat that first part. Who?
That it was the best. That it was like that. He's brought back to older times when he was the old coach.
Basically, what the question is: do you buy or sell his emotions on?
Who's he? I missed the name.
John Gruden.
I hope everything out.
John Gruden of the Oakland Raiders.
I think he's always loved the Raiders, man. I mean, I buy that he likes the Raiders. I think that he wants it his way, though. And I think, honestly, Mark Jackson just wants to get out of Oakland. I don't think it has anything to do with Gruden. I think it's ownership. And I think John just wants to be part of the Raiders. I don't think he cares if it's in Las Vegas, Los Angeles. Hell, I don't even think he cares if it's in the middle of Kansas. I think he just cares about being on the Raiders. And that's that. I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with this city of Oakland.
Okay. Hank, how do you feel? Do you find his emotions?
I thought you were going to say when he went into the black hole, I thought you were going to say that he was going to stretch forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever into another dimension. Anyway, that's some science jargon for you. Of course I buy that he has emotions. He is one of the most emotional people out there. John Gruden is a guy who wears his feelings on his face and in his emotions. When John Gruden, when he compliments someone, he's 100% serious. He might be completely annoying about it, and people might want to turn the TV off because they're like, "Hey, you're blowing smoke up this guy's ass." But I agree. I totally agree with Josh. It's 100%. He wears his emotions on his chest. Of course he's emotional. He hasn't won very many games this year, and he beat a team with a winning record, which is something they hadn't done all season. So I buy that he has emotions. I think anyone who looks at him, anyone who would talk to him, would know that.
Okay, I have to give you guys both a nice little point there, Josh. I honestly thought you were going to come in the other way there and just totally trash him, say I don't buy this crap.
I like John Gruden.
Unfortunately, guys,
I like John Gruden. What are you talking about? Why would you think
you've been hating on him the past
he might like him, but he might be critical about him too.
I haven't been hating on John Gruden. I've been hating on the Raiders, and I've been hating on how they've handled things, not necessarily John Gruden.
Okay. But you're still both not getting points because it's not the answer I wanted, so you're both still stuck at 0. Anyway, we're moving on to the second question. Baker Mayfield recently said in a comment, I was sent here to change Cleveland for the better. Are you buying Baker Mayfield's comments there? The Browns have been burned before. Are they going to be burned again? Josh.
Am I buying that Baker Mayfield believes that he can change Cleveland? I guess if we're just appealing to you to get right answers, yeah, I buy it 100%. Of course I buy it, DJ. He's there, and he's actually, all he knows about Cleveland is that they suck and they're losing, and with him right now, they're winning. So yeah, I buy that he thinks that he can change the culture in there, and he can make that team a winning football team. I mean, right now it's not necessarily a winning football team. You're not a losing football team, but yeah, he's done a lot to change the culture there.
I agree that he's been there to change the culture, and I believe that he might believe that he was brought there to change the Cleveland Browns. But I'm not gonna play devil's advocate. I'm gonna kind of like teeter the edge here. But let's be honest here. Colt McCoy was brought there to change the Cleveland Browns into a winner. Brandon Weeden was brought there to change the Cleveland Browns into a winner. Johnny Manziel was brought there to change the Cleveland Browns into a winner. Tim Couch, Jeff Garcia. All these Browns quarterbacks are brought in there to change the culture of the Cleveland Browns, and all of them have failed minus Derek Anderson for one season. Brady Quinn was supposed to be the guy, but it was Derek Anderson. I'm not saying that he wasn't brought there to change the Cleveland Browns, but so many quarterbacks have been brought there to change the Cleveland Browns. So many GMs, coaches have been brought there to change the Cleveland Browns. Owners have thought that they've been brought there to change the Cleveland Browns. I guess it's a matter of opinion, and I will say that Baker Mayfield was probably the best guy that they've ever brought in at quarterback out of all of those guys. So, yeah, I'll agree with that. But at the same time, you have to understand that all of these other guys have been brought into Cleveland and they've all failed. This is one guy out of like 1,000.
So I'm going to go ahead and give the point to Josh because Hank brought up such a very, very dark and evil history of the Cleveland Browns that I did not want to talk about during this game. And, you brought it up. All my quarterbacks they had to go through. He basically listed the whole jersey that's always been shown in that shop of all the quarterbacks that played for the Cleveland Browns. There's no that was not the question. So, Hank, you know what? You're not getting any points this one. Josh, you have a 1-0 lead. We're going to move on to the next question. Maybe you'll do a little bit better on this one, Hank. Let's see. Is Jared Goff a possible MVP candidate or just another bust? Because in the past 2 years he's played, he hasn't done well in December. It seems like his coach kind of game plans around him and makes him look better. Basically, what I'm saying is, do you buy Jared Goff is the guy for the Rams, or is he just being sheltered by all this talent that's around him? Let's start with you, Hank.
I don't believe I don't believe you could call him a bust yet, because his last 2 seasons, the team has been doing well, and he's put up pretty good stats as the season's gone on. So I don't think you could call him a bust, but I would say that I would call him overrated. And overrated just because of the last few games. I mean, he's played against the Lions, who haven't been as good, beat them, got totally scorched by the Chicago Bears in Chicago at the Monsters of the Midway, and he kind of got beat. He was snubbed. He laid a goose egg when it came to touchdowns against Nick Foles and a fairly injured, beat up Philadelphia Eagles defense. So I'm not going to say he's a bust, but I'm definitely going to say that he's not an MVP candidate at this point. He is not playing up to the level of Drew Brees. He's not playing up to the level of Pat Mahomes, and he's certainly not playing up to the level of his brethren also playing in LA, old man Phillip Rivers. But I don't think that you can call him a bust in an NFL sense just because of how well the team has played. Of course, you could say that maybe Sean McVay, he aids Jared Goff because he makes him play better because of the way he calls plays. But I don't think you could call him a bust, no.
Okay. Josh, go ahead and give me your side of this.
I think that I agree with Hank for the fact that he is overrated. He has a lot of issues. One of them being playing in harder conditions outside in colder weather when he's not in the comfy, Southern California weather. He doesn't play as well. And I think that Sean McVay's done a really good job of scheming for Jared Goff, and honestly, that's not a bad thing, though. Like, people say, oh, he only works in this system. Well, that's probably why that's probably why he's still there. I mean, obviously, he's on his rookie contract, but I'm sure it works for Sean McVay to just, if he can make it work with him, then he's going to make it work. You can't always get an Aaron Rodgers. You have to work with what you have, and they have Jared Goff, and that's who they're going to have to stick with, is Jared Goff.
And I mean,
Sean McVay can continue to help game plan around him. If Todd Gurley can still play well, I think that they can do well, but he is not an MVP candidate in any sense of the word to me. I don't think that he doesn't even deserve to be in conversation for MVP candidate.
To piggyback off of Josh, I mean, it took Tom Brady years to become an elite quarterback. You know what I'm saying? To put up elite numbers. So I don't think you could say he's a bust.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and give a point to Hank and then 2 points to Josh because you mentioned the rookie contract. They have him under control. That means they can pay all these people that they have on their team because their quarterback's still on his rookie deal. So good job, Josh, there. So Josh has 3 points. Hank, you have 1. We have 2 more questions left. Real quick, the Rams signed C.J. Anderson after the Raiders had waived him. Now, we've been hearing Todd Gurley has been hurt a little bit. Is this something to worry about, that now they have signed C.J. Anderson? Let's start with you, Josh.
I'll take this first. It's absolutely nothing to worry about. It's a precautionary measure because they're probably going to sit Todd Gurley this week because they're playing against the Cardinals. And I know you don't want to overlook any opponent, but I would rather sit my best running back right now to make sure that that he's healthy when the playoffs come around. I'm sitting Todd Gurley. Yes, C.J. Anderson got picked up, but also, guys, he got picked up by like 5 other teams this year. So it doesn't worry me at all. Who knows? He might not even – he got signed, but that doesn't mean that he'll even make it past Tuesday of next week. He might just be there as a body because they need somebody in depth chart. So, no, nothing to worry about there. Aside from, let's hope that Todd Gurley is okay. That's the only thing you have to worry about. But I think it's just a precautionary measure at this point.
Okay, Hank. Now, give me something here.
I don't.
Tell me you're not agreeing with Josh.
I don't think that it is that they're bringing in C.J. Anderson to be the starter, but I do think that with Todd Gurley being injured, it is a bit of a concern for the team. Because of the fact that he is such a big part of their team. Their offense has success because of Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley can run inside. He can run outside. He can run screens. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can catch the ball in the field of play. He can catch touchdowns. He is the MVP of their team. And when he's not on the field and when he's not playing at a high level, they're not going to play well. Their offense is physically handicapped by the fact that he's not able to play. He is the number 2 running back in the National Football League. It'd be like as if, the Cowboys lost Ezekiel Elliott. He is the biggest part of their team. And I'm not saying that, bringing in C.J. Anderson, he's actually going to have impact on the team. I'm saying that if they don't have, this injury, we don't know how bad this injury is. They could sit him, and his injury could still linger. Could be an injury where it's not rest that he needs. It might affect him.
I gotta go with Hank here. Hank said it all. It's nothing against you, Josh. I just think there's more things going on here for the Rams to sign C.J. Anderson of all people.
Because here's a guy who was sitting on the bench while his offense was losing. You know what I'm saying?
So it's tough. So we're gonna move on to our last question. This is a 2-point question because I know Hank is down by 2 points.
Now, how many points did I get? Oh, 3-2.
2 points.
Okay.
Josh has 3 points.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to the final question. This is why this is a 2-point, because it's a doozy, and I wanted to save it for you guys. There's been a lot of talk with that little playoff controversy in Philadelphia between Carson Wentz and the great one, Nick Foles. Should the Eagles draft a QB next year in the draft? I'm going to start with...
I'm sorry. I just swore on our podcast.
Josh, just answer the question. It might not be an intelligent question.
Until the 4th round. If you mean, will they draft a quarterback? Sure, they will. Are they going to draft Carson Wentz's replacement? No.
I think you're not really looking into this, but I'll go ahead and go with Hank. Hank, come give me your answer.
I'm going to say they're not going to draft a quarterback in this draft. I'm not really liking the quarterbacks in the draft. I'm not saying that they are bad. You've got some pretty, big names out there, like the kid from West Virginia, Will Grier. I don't know if Herbert from Oregon is coming out or Haskins is coming out. Or I think there's a kid from Missouri or something like that. Possibly the kid from Washington. I'm just looking at this draft and I'm thinking to myself, I don't really like the quarterbacks in this draft, and the fact that the injury is only a 3-month injury. You see, the question I thought you were gonna ask is, what if Nick Foles does well during the playoffs? But it's just one of those things where I don't think that they might draft a quarterback later in the draft because they're going to have trouble keeping both Carson Wentz and Nick Foles. But I don't see them drafting the guy who they believe to be Carson Wentz's replacement. No.
Okay. Since I didn't get an F-bomb from you, Hank, I'm going to go ahead and give you the win in your first win on around the DJ. The reason why I asked Josh, that's not good.
No, DJ, you can't be like, you literally didn't give either of us points because you said it wasn't the answer that I wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's the game, around the DJ. It's not around every democracy around the world. It's around DJ.
He plays judge, jury, and executioner.
So the reason why I gave Hank the points is because you have to look at Carson Wentz's injuries. He's torn his ACL. He now has a little bit of a back problem. He's a running quarterback that doesn't want to change. I'm just saying that there is
not a running quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback, DJ. Huge difference.
Okay, yeah, I know. Mobile.
Lamar Jackson. No, it's not splitting hairs. It's not. Lamar Jackson is a running quarterback. No, so Carson Wentz is a quarterback. Is a quarterback who can run. He is not a running quarterback. He's not RG3. He's not Colin Kaepernick. Are you really going to compare him? Carson, okay, let me name 4 quarterbacks that are considered running quarterbacks, and you tell me if any of them can be comparable to Carson Wentz. Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick, RG3, and Deshaun Watson, or Lamar Jackson.
I would say Cam Newton, yeah.
Oh my God. Josh, this isn't a running back DJ. We're not talking about Jerome. Can we Tomlinson. There's no
DJ
style.
DJ, can we just tie? Can we just tie?
Real quick, guys. Real quick here, okay? The reason there's running and mobile, whatever, okay? We're splitting hairs between names. Those quarterbacks can run, okay? Fine. I used the wrong word for running, but they're mobile is what I am saying. So, now back to the answer that I was telling you, the reason why you want to look into this is because Carson Wentz is getting hurt, okay? And you're going to pay Nick Foles $20 million next year if you're going to keep him on his staff. So there is reason to believe that they will draft a quarterback. That's why I asked the question, Josh.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be the replacement. But
and that's what I would say. It's not going to be Carson Wentz's replacement. But if you mean, are they going to draft a quarterback as a backup? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
get a quarterback as a backup.
Yeah. I will agree with that. Anyway, let's move. Are we gonna? I think we have like 10 or so more minutes left. Do we want to get to fantasy, or how about both of you tell me the player that you would sit and start? Josh.
Any player, not just like any of my players.
Any player.
I would start.
Yeah, or
any player. I would start right now looking at the matchups. Who has the best matchup this week? Go with Derrick Henry running the football for the Tennessee Titans against the Redskins. The Redskins have nothing to play for the rest of the year. Their defense looks tired. It looked good 7 weeks ago. It doesn't look good now. Start Derrick Henry for the Titans against the Redskins. He's at home. He does really, really well at home. I'm going Derrick Henry all the way.
And who would you sit? Josh?
But I would sit Tom Brady because the Bills' defense has played really, really well against quarterbacks. I don't think the Bills are going to win, but it's a division game. I think that they're going to play tough because it's the Patriots, and they might be chomping at their bits to give the Patriots 3 losses in a row. They probably won't win, but I would say be careful starting Tom Brady against the Bills this week.
Okay.
And you know what, Josh, to piggyback on yours, because me and you both know somebody who owns not only Tom Brady, but the person who I think you should start against the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's Baker Mayfield. Yes, we're talking about.
Yeah, that was too low hanging. That was too low hanging fruits for me.
All right, DJ. Why should we start Baker? Why should we start the? Why should we start Baker's dozen?
Hold on. Hello.
Hey, keep talking.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that Baker's playing the Bengals?
The Bengals?
That's exactly why.
The Bengals.
Yeah, so he wants to throw Hugh Jackson so far 30 points this week, and you should definitely start Baker. The person you should sit is Adrian Peterson. He's going against the Tennessee Titans defense that has been very well against the run, and AP is already questionable. So I would sit AP this week.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I want you to go onto your fantasy teams. I want you to start Derrick Henry and Baker Mayfield, and I want you to sit AD and Tom Brady. So let's get to our picks. Josh, you are a substitute pick master today. You will announce the picks, and we will respond accordingly. Let's go over the stats, the overall stats. I don't exactly remember what the records were this week. I'm scrolling up. Okay, so Josh went 9-5. DJ and I went 8-6, and Ricky went, followed in last place this week at 7-7. This allowed Josh to take a 1-game lead over me with 132 wins, 91 losses, and 2 ties. I have 131 wins, 92 losses, and 2 ties. Ricky is about 10 points behind, 122, 98, and 2. And DJ is currently above 500, rearing up the four of us at 116, 104, and 2. So he has a long way to go. I don't know how possible it is for him to get into first place, but I think it's possible right now that he can overtake Ricky. But he'll do his best.
He would have to do really, really well these next 2 weeks, and Ricky would have to do really, really badly the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been talking a lot of crap lately about my picks, but he's gonna rue the day.
I'm gonna rule today.
Well, let's get rolling on these picks here. And no Thursday night game this week, people. So if you're stressing out about fantasy tomorrow, don't stress out. If you're stressing out about picking tomorrow, don't stress out, because the first set of games is actually on Saturday. We have a doubleheader coming up on Saturday. The first game to start off that doubleheader is the Washington Redskins traveling to the Tennessee Titans, who are 5-1 at home this season. Who do you guys have in this game?
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick the Washington Redskins as my upset pick. Like with the Jacksonville Jaguars last week, I think I was one of the only people who picked the Redskins. It is because the Redskins do better against the Jacksonville Jaguars. With that said, however, they also do very well against the Tennessee Titans. So I am going to pick the Redskins to beat the Titans in a very close game.
And like you, Hank, I too picked the Washington Redskins last week against Jacksonville. But I'm not going to go ahead and pick Washington this week. I think Tennessee is going to come through, and they're going to beat them. I don't think it's going to be I don't think the winner's going to score 20 points though. I think it's going to be in the teens.
I'm gonna roll with the Titans as well. I think that they play well at the end of the year, and I think that right now they figured out that if they run the ball with Derrick Henry, once again, if you run the ball and play good defense, you're gonna win games. So I'm rolling with the Titans on this one. We will get Ricky's picks, and we will get Ricky's picks and also send him our picks, I guess, because he will have to write them down. But the next game on Saturday is going to be the Ravens going to Los Angeles to play the Chargers and Old Man Rivers. The Chargers have won 10 of their last 11 games, while the Ravens have won 4 of their last 5, being led by rookie Lamar Jackson. Who do you guys have in this game?
I guess I'll...
Yeah. I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna go, since I reached for the last one. I'm gonna go with the safe pick here. I'm gonna pick the Chargers.
I don't think this is a safe pick at all. In fact, this is DJ's coin flip of the week, and I'm going with the Ravens. Unfortunately, the Ravens are going to beat the Chargers,
and the Browns will get eliminated from the playoffs.
That's okay with me.
You guys already know who I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick the Ravens. I think that they've found the recipe, and I think if we can get pressure on Old Man Rivers, and especially with Keenan Allen being a game-time decision, I think that the Ravens might have a chance to win this game. It will be close. It'll be tough, but let's see if we can pull one off. Okay, moving on to these Sunday games. We have the Texans going to the city of brotherly love to play the Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you guys have in this game? Hank, why don't we start with you? It is your Eagles with Nick Foles.
It's going to be a tough game. I do think that the Texans are going to overcome the Eagles. Just to put it out there, no Houston team has ever beaten the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Texans are coming in much better. Hopefully Nick Foles can bring some magic up, but the Texans have been basically unbeatable in the last few weeks, besides the Indianapolis Colts.
I'm pretty sure they lost last week, didn't they?
No, they won. They beat the Jets.
They won last week. They lost the week before to the Colts.
To the Colts.
Gotcha.
And it was a really, really close game, though. It was a really close game.
Yeah, guys, I'm rolling this train because the train left the station last week when I said that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to win out and take the division. I got the Philadelphia Eagles winning this one. It's going to be a dogfight, but it looks like that Philly defense has come ready to play now.
Okay, I'm actually going with the Texans as well. I'm sorry, Hank. Hopefully, maybe reverse psychology will work. I also want to get wins in my picks, but just like you said, the Texans are a hot team right now. They just look really good, so I'm going to go with the Texans. Moving on, we have the Packers going to the Big Apple to play the Jets. One of these teams without road, one of two teams without road wins this season. That is, the Packers have not won on the road this year. Can they pull it off in New York? DJ.
I'm going Green Bay on this game. That's it.
Okay, simple answer.
I'm going with Green Bay as well. Even though they're 0-7 on the road, I think that Aaron Rodgers is gonna. He has 23 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions. He broke a record for most attempts between interceptions.
Yeah, he didn't throw a pick until I think the 10th week or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, well, this is our first unanimous decision of the night. I'm going with the Packers as well. The Jets just don't have much in their favor, so I'm going with the Packers as well. Moving on, we have a division game between the Bills traveling up to go over to the Patriots, who are the only team without a loss at home this year. Guys, Patriots or Bills?
I'm gonna go again. It's really hard for me to go against the. It's really hard for me to go against the Patriots. I don't think they're gonna win. I don't think they're gonna lose this week. I'm gonna go Patriots.
Oh, Patriots. Let's see.
Patriots, Bills.
Patriots are.
Is that your pick?
No. I'm sorry. The Patriots are playing
the Bills.
Okay, yeah, you gotta go Patriots here. They're gonna go ahead and take this one over. They do this. It's gonna be a close one. It is Buffalo, but it's in New England.
And they're also 6-0 at home.
Yeah, they're 6-0 at home. So I'm actually rolling with the Patriots as well. Let's move on to another divisional game. We have the Vikings traveling to Detroit to go against the Lions. AJ, who do you have? Vikings or Lions?
I'm going to go ahead and go with the Vikings here. I think they're going to win another one. Detroit is going to put up a good fight. I know it's in Detroit, division game, but I think the Vikings somehow overcome their inept offensive woes that they broke through last week. But again, against a pretty bad defense. This is not the best defense either, but it's a division game, so I'm seeing this one that's going to be close. But the Minnesota Vikings are going to come up with this one.
On a personal level, I need the Lions to beat the Vikings. But what I learned last year is you should never depend on the Lions to help you out in any way. This is going to be all Vikings all day.
Okay, Hank's going with the Vikings as well. And it looks like we are pretty on the same page this week, guys, because I'm rolling with the Vikings as well. I think that when the Lions traded away Golden Tate and Marvin Jones being hurt, Kenny Galladay's really their only weapon. Kerryon Johnson's on IR. Their defense really hasn't been anything special. Another team that I really can't highlight any positives in right now. So I'm going to go with the Vikings as well. Moving on, we have the Bucks going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. If the Cowboys win, they clinch the NFC East. So, who do you have?
I got Dallas. I don't really have any faith at all in Tampa. I need Tampa to win, but I don't think they're gonna win. I think it's Dallas Cowboys. They're gonna come back.
You don't think they're gonna be licking W's off their fingers?
No.
So you're gonna say a team that scored 0 points next week is gonna put up some points next week?
Yeah, but the Buccaneers, the Buccaneers have the worst defense in the NFL.
Yeah, but not this week. They're gonna beat the Dallas Cowboys, and they're gonna go 6-9, and the Dallas Cowboys are going 8-7, and the Philadelphia Eagles are going 8-7 too.
So DJ's going with the Bucks. I'm rolling with the Cowboys too. I think they right the ship and they start going back in the right direction. Their defense plays well, and I think they'll figure out what was wrong with their offense last week. Get it going. Get the ball to Amari Cooper. Get the ball to Ezekiel Elliott. Get Dak Prescott on the move. I'm going with the Cowboys in a win. Next up, DJ, you can answer this one first because it is your team. It is the Bengals going into the other part of Ohio to take on the Browns. If you guys win this, it would be the first time you sweep the Bengals since 2002. I'm guessing you have your Browns.
Yeah, Browns. Big. Huge. We are going to destroy the Cincinnati Bengals. We are going to probably end up running Hugh Jackson out of the stadium that he tried to build and failed miserably. This is going to be one of those games where Baker Mayfield is going to go off. We're going to have a huge game by Nick Chubb. Offensive line's going to play inspired. And that top 10 defense is going to be in its top 10 form. Browns win by 20 points. 30-10.
Browns.
I'm going with the Browns, but DJ's worrying me now because he
just jinxed the Browns right there.
I guess so. So moving on. I hope the Browns win too, DJ, but you just got a little excited there. Falcons are going to take on the Carolina Panthers.
Wait, who did Hank pick?
Do you guys... Hank picked the Browns as well.
Oh, okay.
So what do you guys think happened to the Panthers? Remember, they were playing really, really well.
They were 6-2
earlier this year. They haven't gotten a win since week 10.
Yep. They've lost how many consecutive... They've lost, 5 consecutive games?
Yep.
Or 6 consecutive, something like that. I'm going to pick the Falcons because Cam Newton is not playing. And even though the Panthers have a good defense, I think that Matt Ryan played well last week. He's got confidence back. They're going to go in there, and they're going to win.
Yeah, I got to go with the Falcons, too. It just seems like the Falcons are just getting lucky with some of these teams that they're playing. And I think Dan Quinn's going to save his job, and so is Matt Ryan on this because they're going to actually probably end up winning. What are they right now? They're 5-9. They'll probably end up going 7-9 out of this.
I'm going to go with the Falcons as well for what Hank said. Cam Newton's out, so he gives you the best chance to win. Without him, I don't think you're going to beat the Falcons. So I'm going Falcons as well. Moving on, we have the Jaguars going to Miami to play the Dolphins. This is interesting. I don't know if you guys saw that stat that Ashton showed. But how the Dolphins, however many games, they're like 62 and 62 over the
Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins have been the dictionary definition of mediocre. Just mediocre, just good, mediocre. I'm gonna pick the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. They are the greatest football team. Yeah, go Dolphins. Yeah. They're 6-1 at home too.
Since I don't care about my Browns going to the playoffs anymore, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Miami as well. I think they're gonna win this game.
Wow. Oh God, I want to go with the Dolphins, but you guys are all picking the Dolphins. And I don't have an upset this week. But I'm going to go with the Dolphins anyway, because I just think that with Cody Kessler starting, Leonard Fournette hasn't looked great. I'm going to go with the Dolphins as well. So, we got next up on the slate, it's going to be the New York Football Gigantes take on the Indianapolis Colts. What do you guys think?
I think Indianapolis is going to make the actually put up a zero burger for the Giants again. So they're going to go 2 weeks in a row shutting out 2 of the NFC East teams. Yeah, Indianapolis, big.
That would be 2 weeks in a row that the Giants would be shut out too. They were just shut out by the Titans as well.
I just hate the Giants so much. It makes me happy sometimes.
Hank, I know they're your favorite team. Is your favorite player Odell Beckham going to play?
I don't know if he's going to play. It's an up and down kind of thing. Every other week, are we going to keep him? Are we going to shut him down? If I'm the Giants, I'm already out of the playoffs. I wouldn't even think about playing Eli Manning right now because you already know what you have in Eli Manning. I think that Shermer should be thinking about starting whatever his name is. But I'm going to pick the Colts because the Colts are a way better team and the Giants are kind of out of it right now.
Kinda?
Well, they're actually out of it, They're actually out of it. Yeah. So Colts will win.
I'm rolling with the Colts as well. I think that they can win this game. Now, next up, we have the Chicago Bears coming to San Francisco, then going down to Santa Clara to play the 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers of Santa Clara. Who do you guys have?
This is my second upset of the week. Here, the 49ers have played very well against the Chicago Bears they played them in the last 2 seasons. They beat them in 2016 or 15, and then they beat them in 2017. I'm picking them to win this game. They're 4-3 at home.
I mean, let's just be honest. If you can't outplay Mr. Trubisky, how good are you? So I just think that the San Francisco 49ers, after that big upset last week, are going to be riding high, and they have another home game this week against Chicago. I think they're going to show their grit this week as well. I think that Nick Mullins is doing very well. I think the reason Hank likes Nick Mullins because he has the name Nick, and that's half of Nick Foles. So I'm thinking that that's the reason why he's going with them, and I'm going to take that same route.
Okay, you guys are both taking the 49ers, and even though Kyle Shanahan is 7-1 with the 49ers in December, I'm going with the Bears on this one, guys. Defense wins championships. I think the Bears' defense is just too good. I like what Nick Mullins has done as well, but I have to roll with the Bears on this one. Moving on, staying on the West Coast, though, we have the Rams traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Who do you guys have in that game?
Rams.
Yep, Rams.
No explanation.
Rams.
I think this is a stepping stone for them to get into the playoffs.
Yeah. We're all taking the Rams. I think this is a game that the Rams will not take lightly, and I think Sean McVay is going to tell them, we need to take this seriously. Playoff implications on the line. This is not a team that you can just think you're going to, walk all over. I think they're going to come out, especially with the loss the last couple weeks. I think they're going to come out and just crush. So I'm going Rams as well. After that, this is a big game of the week that has tons and tons and tons of playoff implications. This is the 1:25 Pacific time game between the Steelers and the Saints. The Saints can clinch home field advantage in the NFC with a win. The Steelers can put themselves a step ahead of the Ravens, even more so if they get a win. Guys, who do you have? Saints against Steelers in the Big Easy.
Saints.
Oh yeah, big time Saints. Big time Saints. I got the Saints. I mean, they're back in their home and they're in a dome. So let's go Saints.
Yep. After a 3-game road trip, I have the Saints as well. They're coming back home. They've played well. Plus, I hate the Steelers.
Yeah, I hate them too. They suck.
Yeah, I'm going with the Saints as well. Next game, we have the Kansas City Chiefs going to play against the Seattle Seahawks and the 12th man in Seattle. Who do you guys have?
I think if I'm not mistaken, hold on, DJ, you do the picks first.
I can go first on this one.
Okay.
This is one of my upsets of the week. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks because the Ravens showed you how to beat the Chiefs. You run the football, control the clock, and guess what Seattle is? The number 1 rushing team in the NFL. I'm going with the Seahawks to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Seahawks as well for stuff that Josh and I see Russell Wilson going 9-6 on the year when this was supposed to be a rebuilding year.
The Kansas City Chiefs have beaten the Seattle Seahawks every time since 2002 was the last time the Seahawks beat the Chiefs. So I'm going to go out and say the Chiefs are going to win this one. I like the Chiefs.
Okay. Hank is going with the Chiefs. Final game to wrap it up on Monday Night Football, Christmas Eve. We have the Broncos going to Oakland to take on the Raiders. What do you guys have?
I am going to be at this game, and the Raiders are going to win their possibly last game against Denver on Monday night and Christmas Eve as an early Christmas present for the Raider fans.
I'm going to roll with the Raiders as well. This was my other upset of the week. I think that the Broncos are dealing with injuries across their team, and it's a division game. It's in Oakland. It could be the last game in Oakland Coliseum ever. So I think that the Raiders are going to pull this one out for their fans. I'm going Raiders as well.
I'm going to go ahead and pick the Raiders as well. The Broncos don't look good, and they're talking about how Vance Joseph might get fired. So I'm picking them. The Raiders.
All right. And guys, that wraps it up for picks this week. It's week 16, so that's it. That's what we got.
And that should signal the end of the Two Birds and a Third podcast for the week. Hopefully we have Ricky next week. If not, we'll have him for the playoffs. And if you guys don't have anything to say, we'll sign off.
I'm good to go, guys. Thanks for listening. Much appreciated. And again, please go to follow us on Twitter at 2B&3. Go to Facebook, like us, and subscribe to the channel that you're listening to right now on YouTube.
It would be Two Birds and Third.
And Third, I'm sorry.
Yes, with numbers.
Two Birds and Third. Mm-hmm. Make sure to follow us, guys. Please like the page. Please subscribe. Please keep following. We will get you guys more football coverage coming next week. And stay tuned because DJ and I are going to start doing the Friday night wrap-up again. So keep tuned into your guys' dials, and we'll catch you next week.
All right. Have a wonderful night, everybody, and we will see you next week.